So there is two families of massive importance from the Land of Water, one of which is the Hozukis, the family that Suigetsu, Gengetsu, and Mangetsu come from. And we've talked about them already, and if you haven't seen the video already, I recommend you go back and watch it, because if I do say so myself, it's very good. But the other family is another H family, who we know significantly less about than the Hozukis, which is why I've waited to cover them until now, and that family is the Hoshigakis. You see, the Hoshigakis have two known members, and one of them is anime only. Our information about them is so incredibly limited that I, the literal Naruto lore guru, know next to nothing about them. But after a little bit of deep diving into internet theories and reading as much lore about them as currently exists, I can cobble together a video explaining to you maybe why they're sharks and maybe about their backstories. Before we get to maybe doing anything though, let's definitely like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And let's maybe hit that join button and become a member of the Weeb Alliance over here on YouTube and get 3 additional videos from me a month on top of cool badges and emotes and member shoutouts. The Hoshigakis, the fish people of Naruto. What was their history? What were their abilities? And why were they sharks? I apologize in advance that the answer to a lot of these questions is going to be largely conjecture on my part, but I'm willing to admit that it is well-researched conjecture. So let's go over what we know, like, for sure. The Hoshigaki are a family from the Hidden Mist, who all have sharp shark-like teeth and gills on their faces. And in Kisame's case, we also saw them have gills on other places, like their arms and their chest. We also learned a good amount about them from Boruto, when Boruto went over to the Land of Waves during the Era of Peace. It's here that Shizuma Hoshigaki, who was, I guess, distantly related to Kisame, said that the Hoshigaki family names no longer appear on memorials of shinobi who have died. And this is because the Hoshigaki, who I guess are always looking for war, were a nuisance during peacetime. And this lines up with what we know. I mean, both Shizuma and Kisame reveled in combat. So it's not insane to assume that the rest of the Hoshigaki family were maybe a bit like the Kaguya clan in that they were always looking for a battle. And because of that, we can make the connection that they might have been heavily involved in the era of the Blood Mist Village. Because Shizuma states that his clan and the entire era of the Blood Mist Village were being erased from the history of the Hidden Mist. So it's a large possibility that these two existed hand in hand. So as for what the Hoshigaki's history was, we can infer that it was largely tied into the Blood Mist era and maybe killing those who are speaking out against it, or serving as Anbu to hunt down missing ninja, or at the very least fighting in the Hidden Mist's wars. But regardless, the entire family has fallen out of favor with the Hidden Mist, which makes sense when you consider the fact that the only two known Hoshigakis are missing ninjas themselves. So that answers about all we know about the Hoshigaki history. What about their abilities? Well, obviously Kisame is significantly stronger than Shizuma and has a much wider array of abilities. Let's try and find a middle ground between the two. For this, I find it's probably best to talk about Shizuma's abilities and cross-reference them with Kisame's. Shizuma had incredible endurance, able to tank blows at a almost inhuman level, something that we also saw in Kisame. And this is also something that we see in sharks. Sharks, being mostly collagen, have much less nerves than you or me, which is why we often see sharks swimming around with bites taken out of them or massive scars from generations of battles. So an inhuman endurance and lack of pain could possibly be a Hoshigaki clan ability. I mean, let's be real. Kisame literally summoned sharks to eat him alive and didn't make a sound while it happened. And Shizuma was slashed across the chest by a bloodthirsty Kagura and then caught his next blow with his sword with his bare hand, barely reacting to the large gaping wound on his chest. After that, we have the fact that Shizuma is able to wield Samehada without rejection. And this is largely due to the fact that his chakra reserves are both very powerful and very large. Powerful chakra meaning that he can mold it into powerful ninjutsu, and large obviously meaning that he has a lot of chakra. This also lines up with Kisame very well. Kisame's water style jutsus were some of the strongest we've ever seen because of the strength of his chakra. His water bullet bomb could wipe out entire forests, redesign battlefields, and he had so much chakra he was considered the tailed beast. So the fact that both of the known Hoshigakis have very powerful and very large chakra reserves like the Senju or the Uzumakis leads me to believe that that was a clan trait, which would make them incredibly important for war, which lines up with our theory that they were heavily involved in the Blood Mist era. Because even if only one Hoshigaki at a time could wield Samehada, they would still be able to form extremely powerful ninjutsu and apply that to enemies. Or in the circumstance of them being Anbu hunting hunting down missing ninja, put people in a water prison, and carry them all the way back to the Blood Mist village. But the affinity for Samehada within the Hoshigaki clan brings up a lot of questions in its own. Obviously, anybody who wields a Samehada needs both a massive amount of chakra and to be very proficient in Kenjutsu. Kenjutsu being sword fighting. But being good at Kenjutsu isn't something that's specific to the Hoshigaki family. It's actually specific to the Hidden Mist village. Swordsmanship is more important in the Hidden Mist village than it is in any village outside of the Hidden Iron, which is where all the samurai live. But having a preternatural ability to wield a sword while also weaving ninjutsu may be something specific to the Hoshigaki. Specifically, using water release to create a field around you that pulls in chakra from people's open wounds to Samehada, something we only ever saw Kisame in Shizuma use. And then obviously there's the fact that both Shizuma and Kisame are incredibly talented in water release. Once again, I struggle attributing that to being from the Hoshigaki clan because everybody from the Hidden Mist is good at that. You're from the land of water. You kind of got to be good with water. So what I'm actually comfortable tying to the Hoshigakis in terms of abilities is a high endurance, a high amount of chakra, and Kenjutsu ability. And in a sense, that's just the Uzumakis with gills. But since we're talking about gills, let's get to the most important question. Why are they sharks? There's three possible theories that explain why the Hoshigakis are sharks. We'll start with the boring one, and then we'll go to the interesting one, and then we'll go with probably the real one. So the boring and kind of obvious one is that maybe it runs in the family. What? That's crazy. There could just be a bloodline directed DNA change that somewhere along the line turned the Hoshigakis into sharks. This makes sense because both Shizuma and Kisame have shark-like features, which would imply more likely than not it wasn't because Kisame was made in a lab, because then why would Shizuma also have the exact same features as Kisame? It would make the most sense that everybody who came from their clan looked like that. So why isn't there more of these shark people walking around? Well, the Land of Water probably has arguably the worst history with wiping out clans with specific Kekkei Genkais or appearances. I mean, look at the Yuki clan, Haku's clan. It was once a prevalent clan in the Hidden Water, but because of their Ice Kekkei Genkai, they were wiped out. Largely because their Ice Kekkei Genkai gave them an advantage over the average person in the Land of Water. And because of that, the Land of Water had fear that maybe one day they would join together and rise up against the Land of Water and overthrow the ruling class. And since we know this happened to the Yuki clan, to assume that a clan that was made of shark people with incredibly high pain tolerance, so high that you could slash them and they wouldn't feel it, or be eaten alive by sharks and they wouldn't scream, and an insane chakra presence that made them all feel like tailless tailed beasts, you can see why maybe the Land of Water wouldn't want them around. So maybe the clan was wiped out after the Blood Mist era and their usefulness had dried up, leaving only Kisame and Shizuma left. It's a possibility that because Kisame was already present as one of the members of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist and therefore held a very high regard in the village, that when the clan was wiped out, they left him alone. Or it's a possibility that he was already a missing nin when the Hoshigaki clan was wiped out, and Shizuma was just young or hidden somewhere. I don't know. Or maybe because they're sharks and sharks don't reproduce that often, it's kind of hard for members of the Hoshigaki clan to have children, and therefore they kind of just wipe themselves out. Or there is a bunch of them and we just haven't seen them, because this is more or less the situation with the Yuki clan, Haku's clan. The Yuki clan wasn't necessarily eradicated, they were more just exiled. So now the Yuki clan lives in the Land of Water still, but no longer in the Hidden Mist village. And they continue their lives on as farmers or shop runners, just not shinobis, because they want to suppress the fact that they have the Ice Kekkei Genkai. So I don't know, maybe there's just Hoshigakis out about in the Land of Water and we just never seen them. Or maybe their gills are all hidden by Anbu masks. Once again, we don't know. The second more interesting theory is that Kisame looks like that because he's a member of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist. Now, I have to say that this theory has more holes than the first one, but it is more interesting. The things that make Kisame look like a shark are his pointy teeth and his gills, and I guess his gray skin. But what if I told you that one of those things is very common amongst the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist, and that would be sharp shark-like teeth? See, it's widely believed that the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist wanted their teeth to look like that of a shark to be more intimidating, but also possibly to act as a weapon. I mean, outside of Kisame, Zabuza, Suigetsu, Chojuro all have shark teeth. Even Fuguki, the person who wielded Samehada before Kisame, had shark-like teeth. He also had facial markings that could be akin to gills, but were more likely than not face paint. And to assume that the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist would do this makes a lot of sense, because they come from the land hidden in the water, and the apex predator of the water is the shark. Technically, it's the killer whale, but don't tell them that. Neutron's having a fit, apparently. He doesn't like He doesn't like the shark talk. But another thing that makes Kisame look like a shark is his beady eyes. Beady eyes that resemble that of a shark. But here's the thing, there's somebody who's had beady eyes and sharp teeth who's wielded Samehada that's not Kisame, and that was the person who wielded it before him, Fuguki, you know, the guy with the war paint. You see, Samehada is referred to as shark skin. It is essentially a living sentient shark that is also a sword. So it's a possibility that on top of the fact that Kisame filed his teeth into dagger-like shark teeth in order to fit in with the 7 swordsmen of the mist, of which he was eventually going to join, he also had his skin grayed or his eyes made beady in order to match the appearance of the Samehada, which he was training to wield one day. And that would explain the similarities that we see between Fuguki and Kisame. Samehada is, after all, the strongest sword in the 7 swords of the mist. So in order to depict that they are inherently the strongest member of the 7 swords of the mist, maybe they are to take the appearance of being a shark one step further. You know, everybody else has got teeth, but I have eyes, and I have gills, and I have gray skin. Then it's a possibility that Shizuma did this as well in order to pay homage to Kisame and other wielders of Samehada, because that's what he wanted. The only real hole in this theory is that you could say that Kisame had all of these appearances before he wielded Samehada, but he was mentored by Fuguki. So to assume that one day he would inherit Samehada isn't insane, even though eventually he would kill Fuguki and take Samehada from him. And while that theory is cool, the last one is most likely the most reasonable one. It's more likely than not that Kisame is simply just an old design. When Kishimoto originally created the Akatsuki, he wanted each member to be a monster with inhuman traits. I mean, Sasori is a puppet. Deidara has a mouth in his chest in his hand. Kakuzo is a puppet stitched together with God knows what. Kisame is a shark. Itachi is made of crows. Orochimaru is literally a snake. Hell, Zetsu is like a tree beetle most of the time. So it's a possibility that Kishimoto may have designed a couple members of the Akatsuki and then kept those designs before he gave everybody else more human-like appearance. Maybe he just liked what he drew with Kisame the first time around. And this makes sense when you consider the fact that Kisame was basically a monster, especially when he fused with Samehada and literally became a shark person, which very much fills Kishimoto's original idea of an Akatsuki member. But then the problem arises, well then what about Shizuma? Well, one, Shizuma was created well after the creation of Kisame, so to tie them into the same group, it would make sense that their appearances are somewhat similar. But two, Shizuma comes from a novel, specifically the light novel School Trip Bloodwind Records. And then he made an appearance in an anime-only arc of Boruto. So while he is absolutely a canon character, his appearance is anime canon. So unfortunately, he doesn't have as much of a sway in the debate of whether or not Hoshigakis are all shark people as Kisame does. But just like I said with previous theories, it's more likely than not that if he wasn't actually a shark person, that he would change his looks to emulate Kisame, who he very much looked up to. And that's it. That's about all we know about the Hoshigaki family. A very interesting clan with very interesting people in it, specifically Kisame, but just like with the Namikaze or any other one-off clan, there's not a whole lot of information out there about them. I would love to do a 35-minute deep dive into the Namikaze and how each of them were the fastest ninjas on Earth, or Jiraiya's clan and how each of them was incredible at sneaking into bathhouses and spitting oil. But these clans with 1 or 2 known members are really difficult to dive into. But now you know everything that there is to know about the Hoshigaki. So if you appreciate at least that, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I forgot to film a goodbye part of this video. But if I'm being honest, I feel the same way about the Hoshigaki clan as I feel about the Fishmen in Naruto. How does a clan that is amphibious and is therefore very much better in water than humans not take over the earth?